Ba-da-da-da-da-da. Dungeons and Dopamine. Ta-da! Hello, welcome to Dungeons and Dopamine, episode 81. I'm Jess.
I'm Bre.
And we're here to delight your ear.
Yeah, good job.
Thanks.
It rhymed.
I literally just came up with that. And I'm kind of sorry.
Oh, I was going to say we're getting better at this.
Oh, right, yes. No, I just edited an episode where we talked about getting better and how I tried to do better at the beginning of the episode intro, and then it just went downhill from there, and we decided that we should not do better and should just continue to do things the way we always have.
You're right.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
I mean,
it's best if we just maintain the status quo.
Yeah. Why would we want to get better when we could just stay the same?
Exactly. What's wrong with that?
In other news, I'm going to complain about the same 12 things I keep complaining about. Can't figure out why they're a problem for me.
I don't understand what personal growth has to do with anything, okay?
Weirdly enough, speaking of that, one thing, maybe this means I'm lazy, but I've always been so bothered by people who, in career mostly, they're so obsessed with people moving forward in careers. Because, not that I don't want to work hard at my job, but what if I don't want to, not excel, but move forward? What if I don't want to be a supervisor or
right.
a manager? What if I just want to stay where I'm at because I'm good at it and I want to get my job done and go home and be with the people and the thing that I actually care about?
I think that's better.
We have to have those people who want to go forward and move up, and I respect that, and I personally have a little bit of that depending on where we're at and what we're doing, but some people just really enjoy working at their shop. They go to work, they do their job, they do it right, they do it well, and then they go home, and that's when they live.
And they don't have to think about it. And nobody's calling them, and nobody needs them. Nobody work-related. Anyway.
Yeah. Kids and family. And
I think it goes back to, our work culture, that we're so obsessed with the grind, and, you're not really doing well or succeeding if you're not working 68 to 80 hours a week.
Yeah.
But, I think it would probably be healthier mentally if more of us were just content to be where we're at.
Yeah, it's really, it's kind of a strange thing to say. It feels foreign, it feels wrong, but it also has always bugged me when people have approached, not necessarily even me, but people, and said, well, why don't you want to excel? Why don't you want to go further?
What are you going to do next?
Yeah.
What's the next
nothing.
step?
I want to be here. I want to get a raise next year, and
I would like to continue to get raises and continue to do well.
I'm going to save some money and get a new car.
Right.
I want to remodel my bedroom. There's so much that you don't.
That doesn't have to involve being the CEO of a Fortune 500 company.
And also, why are you pushing me? Because you're currently the CEO. Why would you want me to be the CEO?
Right. Why do you want me to take your job? Jeez.
If it's that bad, you keep it.
Well, that's what it really is.
Yeah, exactly.
They want you to succeed so you can take their job so they can retire and do nothing.
That is really the end goal for me, is not necessarily retirement even, just not doing anything.
Right?
Doing what I feel like when I want.
Yes, that is my dream as well.
Yeah. Ethically, I would like to be on the right side, but I don't want to do.
See, and I don't know if we've ever covered this. I'm sure we have, but it's been a lot of episodes now, so who knows?
Yeah.
I am not one of those people who would continue to work if I was independently wealthy. But I would do so many cool things with my spare time.
Oh, yes.
Spare time.
Yeah.
With all of the time that I have. I would go volunteer for the puppy shelters and take care of the animals and go to the library and start a reading program and just all this crazy little stuff.
I actually really like what I do. If I was obscenely wealthy somehow, I don't think that I would continue to do much of anything, at least for a while.
Right.
But if I was wealthy enough that I didn't have to work, but it helps to work, I'd do it very basic, 20 hours a week, and I'd be like, please don't count on me, because next week I might decide not to.
And I only want these responsibilities.
Yeah.
These ones that I really like.
The ones that I like,
and you
and
can
I'm
pay me garbage As long as I only have to do what I want to do.
Exactly. I actually knew a couple of people, usually they were older retired women who worked at Hallmark only during the holidays, just because they needed something to do. Everyone was busy during the holidays.
And that employee
so
discount during holiday season.
Absolutely. So yeah, anyways, I'm sorry I didn't mean to take up the whole intro. You have a story.
I have the greatest real estate story that's ever existed. Maybe not, but close. So I got a call and listed a house for a friend of mine, and it was listed for 2 days, and we had a showing come through, and the realtor immediately called me, and he talked very highly of it. They really liked the house. They were going to send over an offer, and I would hear from them soon. And it was cool. Offer comes in, and I pull up the pre-approval letter, and it is, well, at the time, most likely the guy I gave a kidney to 16 years ago. And so I had to do some digging and some confirmation, and it is, in fact, my kidney recipient from many years ago. Completely, it turns out he did see it on my Facebook, so he did see my Facebook post, which makes me feel a little bit better about Facebook marketing. Maybe
Right.
I should get back to that.
Right.
And yeah, he's going to buy the house I'm selling.
That's crazy.
Right? What are the chances?
I mean, I would love to know the statistical odds of something like that happening.
Somebody has studied this before, I'm
Oh.
sure. There must be a wide pool of kidney donors turned realtors.
Definitely. Also, I actually, so I mean, I don't know if you've heard of these guys, but I love the Viva the Dirt League guys.
Really?
Viva la Dirt League. I think I said Viva the Dirt League, which I mean is what it is,
yeah.
but not. Anyway, so they play a D&D game, and they hired a professional. He's not just a DM; he's a GM, so he can game master any kind of tabletop game,
Okay.
not just D&D. So they hired a GM. His name is Rob Hartley. So Rob is a crazy mathematician. He's so good. So sometimes when the guys are playing, or now they have a girls game, which is also epic, the girls are way better at D&D than the guys are. Just like fact keeping and detail oriented and
Weird.
stuff. Yeah. And he's hilarious because he can tell you the odds. Like if you roll a couple of ones in a row, he'll be like, the odds of that are, 2% or whatever.
Whatever it is.
I have no statistic brain at all. I don't even know what numbers are. I think we just caused like an earthquake, both of us at once.
We almost knocked over your monitor and the microphone at the same time, separately.
And I can't tell if it made noise on the mics or not. It looked sort of suspicious, but not
Could
really.
have just been us.
So anyway, that was a weird rant. I have a topic today.
You do?
And it's dedicated to you.
What?
It's technically dedicated to you and me as 10-year-olds. Do any guess? It's not wrestling. We already covered that.
Right. And we would have been a little bit older.
And it does kind of go in my creepy direction, like vaguely.
Okay. I have no clues.
Aliens.
Oh, duh.
So
Strangely enough,
Uh-oh.
I will someday sell the house that is directly in front of the church we used to go to where we
What? Sorry.
met the aliens.
So, just I guess this is a little bit of fun backstory for us. For some reason, and I don't know if it's like somehow in TV or shows or cartoons or something.
That probably would have been like prime X-Files time.
Yeah.
We
that
would have
kind
been a
of
little bit
thing.
too young to actually watch the X-Files then,
Yeah.
but
And like I feel like when the smiley face kind of 60s vibe came back when we were younger, the alien head came back
head
with it.
with the peace sign.
Yeah. So anyway, we kind of loved that stuff. We always played into it. We literally, like as kids, would play that there were aliens coming or after
I think
us.
you wrote
or
a
talk
book about an
I wrote
alien.
2 books. One of them is called An Alien Named Beep or Bleep. I think his name might be Bleep. And
which
then
is even better.
the other one, I don't remember what it's called, but yeah, 4th and like 5th grade or something along those lines. I still have them. Maybe I will find them and post a picture of them if it's not crazy when this episode airs.
Right.
But we were not the only ones crazy about aliens, and we were not in the, what I would call, prime of alien sightings.
Okay. I'm excited about stuff.
So I have a little bit of history for you because I know that we've got to base everything in that. And then I have stories.
Because there has to be some logic to Jessica and I's topics. Otherwise, it just can't happen.
Can't wait for next week. And all of the logic in that episode. Okay, so obviously alien stories are just so popular. Sightings, you can Google it and find dozens of them online. The very first recorded American sighting was in 1639.
What?
Yep. It was near present-day Boston, and it was recorded by John Winthrop. He was the governor of Massachusetts Bay Colony. However, which that shocked me. That I was like, wow, that's a long time ago.
I assumed they were kind of a modern
thing. The 1900s kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing, which that's a weird thing to say, but I did.
But here we are.
However, that was just American. In kind of the global reports, 4th century China have recorded tomes of alien encounters and sighting. I do with that what you will. I'm not going that far back myself. I kind of stuck with more of our modern common stuff.
Unacceptable. Go back and
restart it. Go sit down and do it again.
Do it again. No one's leaving until you finish.
The first, I guess, significant encounter was reported in 1947. There were several in that year. 1947 and 1948, the U.S. Air Force had a influx of reports of, they never really say aliens, they kind of say unidentified or unexplainable experiences. By 1948, they needed someone to look through all of these reports and sort of break through, like, this one has an explanation, this one doesn't, this one can be excused by a weather pattern or something along those lines. So they called this guy named J. Allen Hynek. He was 37 years old, and he worked for Ohio State in their conservatory. Seems like an appropriate place to work for this guy.
I was gonna ask, like, what type of background do you have to be the alien investigator?
Alien guy,
And apparently it's that.
And something I want to note is that Hynek thought he was taking a very small, kind of part-time, simple side job that exploded into something new. He ended up involved in several different government projects. You know, they always name them. There is the Grudge. I think it's Grudge or shoot. I can't remember it exactly. I think it's a Grudge. And then there's the Blue Files. And then there's the Blue is the most famous one. But he started digging in. This makes me laugh. This is a quote directly from history.com. And every time I think about history or the History Channel, I think of that guy with the hair that says aliens. So take all of this with a grain of salt, because a lot of this did come from the History Channel. And we know they love aliens. Maybe the guy in the picture is Hynek.
Obviously. It's the only logical conclusion to draw.
Exactly. Oh, one other note, I'm sorry, before I read this quote, is that Hynek took the position not knowing a lot about UFOs, unidentified objects, but also just knowing they were real. So this is the quote. In Hynek's final report, he noted about 32% of incidents could be attributed to astronomical phenomena, while another 35% had other explanations, such as balloons, rockets, flares, or birds. Of the remaining 33%, 13% didn't offer enough evidence to yield an explanation. That left 20% that provided investigators with some evidence but couldn't be explained. The government tried and failed several times to wrap up alien investigations. And of course, they never quite call them alien investigations. They're always under a name or unidentified objects investigations,
like
or
case file number blah blah blah.
Yeah, exactly. They tried and failed to close and open them several times, especially in the 50s and 60s. Fun fact before we dig into more stories, Hynek did change his stance on aliens and UFOs.
Really?
He did. He spent a significant number of years in this research, just alone. So,
That alone makes me believe.
Right?
If you're a disbeliever and the government comes to you and has you do something and you walk away believing in aliens, then I believe in aliens.
Right? He also earned the nickname Mr. UFO. So either that or the government, what they call unidentified objects are just fully radiated items that drive people crazy. Right. So
brainworms.
Exactly. So to the fun stuff, I want to talk about some story.
I don't think have we officially given our stance on aliens? Do we have official stances on aliens?
So maybe? Like government-wise or you and I?
You and I.
Oh.
Oh.
In that case, no.
They're all made up.
Let's stop talking about it. So, 1948, a P-51 Mustang pilot, which sounds like it's just some sort of fancy fighty aircraft from the 40s. This 25-year-old man, his last name Gorman, he was doing exercises in the air in his airplane. I know all of the airplane terminology. I'm so smart.
Very legit.
I basically fly airplanes for a living.
Fun fact about Jessica.
Pilot. That makes me think of Dwight from The Office. Pilot. Anyway.
Can we go back and take a picture of you doing that later?
Okay, perfect. I turn it into a GIF and have it flash above my head. Pilot. Anyway. So he decided, even when his comrades, I shouldn't probably say that,
probably not what they
with
call
American military. When the other pilots he was exercising along with landed, he decided to continue just to get some night flying time in. And he was circling over a football stadium and getting ready to land about 9 p.m. The control tower told him that there was one other airplane in the vicinity and he could actually see it. Then he saw the taillight of another craft. Thought that was really weird because the tower didn't have that. And being a military guy, he decided he wanted to check it out.
Unauthorized.
Exactly, yes. And it really weird that the radar wouldn't have been picking it up. Mm-hmm. It was about 1,000 yards away. He decided to follow it. He finally caught what it was. It was about a 6 to 8 inch in diameter, clear white light with no fuzz around it. So, not fur, but that fuzzy light right. that you get in the dark.
Halo.
And he began to approach it, and it kind of steadied out and then pulled a fully just sharp left turn. He thought it was going to attack the tower. So he kind of gave chase. And he tried to catch up and could not. He said it was going too fast, but finally got behind it. And it made a sharp turn and headed straight for him.
Oh, no.
Which makes me want to die.
Run away.
He said it was almost at the point of collision, and he dove, and the light passed over his canopy at about 500 feet. Then it cut back sharply and headed back in his direction. I'm going to quote this directly from the article. Just as a collision seemed imminent, Gorman said the object shot straight up in the air into a steep climb, so steep that when he tried to intercept, his plane stalled out at about 14,000 feet. The object was not seen again, but according to Gorman, he had engaged the aerial maneuvers with it for 27 minutes.
What?
So he was obviously very shaken by this. He notes that there was no sound emitted by the object and that there was no trail left. The stream trails, air trails, the
chemtrails.
Yeah, I was trying to think of that, and all I could think of was steam. The steam trails.
Back when they were using those steam planes.
Those steam trains. steam planes. The guys shoveling coal into the engine. I love us. Yep. He says that he reached up to 400 miles per hour while in pursuit and could not keep up. and said that there was a definite intelligence to the way it was moving and driving. It wasn't just a...
Like it was copying him and moving. It wasn't like a
Exactly.
reflection off somebody's watch that was...
Exactly. Or a bug that you catch in the light that doesn't have a clue what it's doing, but just
Right.
goes left and then right and then forward, and then it gets on you when you're flailing around. And fine. Everything's
That
fine.
happens to me too.
So he did report that he blacked out temporarily because of the speed that he reached. And he claimed he was in really good physical condition and that shouldn't have happened to him. It was just an adrenaline-filled chase. This is actually a really highly regarded story. People do count it as one of the... Let me just say all of the ones that I'm going to tell you are regarded as some of the most plausible stories.
Okay. Not just like a Reddit...
Exactly.
Ask Reddit thread that you
Not
found.
like my next episode that you guys are going to listen to. Because I'm sorry. I'm sorry already.
I'm excited.
So that is his. And of course, I'm just telling these fast. Please go check them out if you want to learn a little bit more. There's a lot to them and a lot of follow-up behind them and everything. I just want to tell the fun stuff. So that's what I'm going to do.
Plus, otherwise we talk for 2 hours. So.
Exactly. Love that for us. This is in 1952 in West Virginia. It's kind of considered a joke now. However, I don't think that has been dispelled. I don't think there's ever been an explanation for it.
So it's like a joke, but it's like the aliens were screwing with us joke.
Yeah, in 1952, so maybe they've lost most of the people involved at this point. I mean, that doesn't feel like it was that long ago, but I guess
Well, yeah.
it's 72 years now. So anyway, there were a couple of boys were out. They were brothers. They were 13 and 12. They had their 10-year-old friend with them, and they watched a pulsing light streak across the sky and crash on a nearby farm. Though, of course, they, being young boys, they did actually, I will give them credit, run to get their mom first.
That's surprising.
Yes, and then they brought her to check out what was going on.
Because my first thought when you said, like young boys, I was like, sure.
Of course, they're running over. They're going to climb on it. and-
Well, that or they just made this whole story up.
Oh, gotcha. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Fair.
While they were like playing in their fort today. They were
Right.
like, let's tell the whole town we found aliens.
Yeah, we would have done that.
But they went and got their moms first, so.
So they got one of the mothers, and they got a few other boys and a dog.
I would have done that too.
Same.
Good idea.
They headed over. They checked it out, and all of them and the dog ended up running back to town or to a home. It doesn't really say, in terror. It says.
What?
They
I
said
don't like it.
that they reported seeing a 10-foot Frankenstein-like monster in the hills above the Flatwoods. So they claim they saw this. One of them said that he saw eyes in the woods and that he thinks it might have had clawed hands, but the mist was too thick to tell for sure. Now the city, the county, the town, whatever you want to call it, sells replicas of this monster, what they think it might have looked like, and just makes money off of it.
Okay.
So 72 years later, they're still kind of benefiting from it. Specifically, it says that they sell green monster tchotchkes and t-shirts. This story goes much deeper. There are a lot of eyewitness accounts and things like that, but I just can't dig into it without doing each one individually, which maybe someday I will.
Well, and that's especially like that many people.
Right.
It wasn't like two kids. They went out and they're like ran home and told their moms about it. Like,
Yeah.
they went and got their mom and some more kids and dog and all these things, and they all saw something. Like,
And
that's...
It does say that one of them peed their pants, which I feel like, especially teenage-ish boys, are not going to admit that.
Right. None of them are going to be like, okay, you guys, you say this happened, and you,
You
say
pee
this
your
happened,
pants.
and I'll say I peed my pants. Okay?
In fact,
okay.
Okay, let's go.
Now it's super believable.
So, yeah.
Wow. That's crazy.
I actually believe that, and that's why Drink covers that one in depth, and she does a great job. She always does a great job, but this next one here is 1952 as well. A scoutmaster and a hardware store clerk. 2 valiant professions. I guess those actually do go together really well.
Yep.
Scoutmaster who can fix things and teach children to build things and fix. Okay, I'm losing it here. I'm losing everything here. He was taking a group of Boy Scouts home when he saw a bright flash, over Military Trail near West Palm Beach, Florida. I did also specifically choose different places because I did not want this to seem like maybe they're testing aircraft or chemicals or
Right.
space bubbles.
It all happened in
all different areas.
Right.
I should look and see if I can find them in different countries.
You should.
Huh, not a failure.
Next week's episode already written.
Exactly.
There you go.
So they thought that it could possibly be an accident or something. And of course, this is prime time for Boy Scouts to show up. So he took a machete and some flashlights and entered the grove where he saw the lights. He left 3 boys in a vehicle with instructions to let the people at a nearby home know if he didn't return soon. Yeah.
Okay.
Great job, Scoutmaster.
Right?
Thanks. You can't have my kid.
Just lock him in a car and say, hey, go to that stranger's house if I don't come back.
That does seem so 50s. I mean, I could see that
right.
happening in the 90s, so.
That's true. 80s. Yeah. That would have happened to us. Let's be fair.
So, after documents of this event became declassified, I don't know how long they were classified for, but I do find that bit of information interesting.
Mm-hmm.
He described a nauseating smell and then feeling like something was watching him. He then experienced, this is directly from the article, a sensation of oven-like heat coming from above. He said that he looked up and couldn't see any stars, but was underneath a hovering object. He said it was circular, it had no seams, and was dull black. It was about 10 feet high and then 30 feet in diameter, which means absolutely nothing to my brain because diameters just
like
break it.
The size of my house.
Oh, whoa, okay, so huge.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you know things.
I think. I mean, I could be wrong, but I think I've heard Zach say that.
So next is kind of wild. This is something different from what you see in a lot of other stories. He said that he heard a noise, like his direct quote is like a hatch opening. Mm-hmm. Then a red light came out and started to move slowly toward him. He referred to it as a ship when he was telling this story to authorities. He put his hands over his face as the red light grew into a mist that engulfed him. Then he says he lost consciousness. When he came to, he could not see properly and was leaning against a tree. So he stumbled back to the car, and everyone kind of says, basically to sum it up in a very unsatisfying way. He was terrified, and everyone said they could not understand. They've never seen someone so terrified of something that has happened to them.
Especially, he was probably like a tough guy.
Yeah,
I mean,
he went Scoutmaster.
He went out to chase it down on his own.
The other thing I feel like is you hear a lot of these stories where people think that they're having supernatural experiences, but it's really that like fear feel of like a bobcat watching you, right, or being hunted by a bear, because you sense those kinds of things, but you don't necessarily understand what you're sensing.
Right, your body's reacting.
Yeah, it's just like a feeling of malice of I gotta get out of here. So he would know that.
Right.
Theoretically, unless he was a crappy scoutmaster. He did leave the 3 children in the car.
True.
The only thing I could find about how long he was in the glade or if they stayed is that they stayed in the car. So he didn't get back 5 years later.
Right.
And he told them if he didn't come back after a few minutes to go tell the farmhouse.
So it couldn't have been too long.
One of the boys did report seeing some lights over in the glade, but not red. I have a few more, but I am running out of time. I would suggest if you want a good story, look up Betty and Barney Hill.
Ooh.
They have quite a story. And I do have one from Michigan, which I will hold on to for another alien episode. If anybody ever wants to hear it, I will do a better job of getting all the details, maybe. I make no promises.
It'll depend on what's going on.
I know I have a lot of this episode to cut out as well anyway, but that'll be good for now. So those are some of my alien stories. I definitely want to find more. I've seen dozens in Reddit posts, and I liked these a little bit more just because I felt like I wasn't just trying to tell scary stories. I wanted to find the most credible ones, to be frank.
I like it when there's some, like,
substance maybe, or yeah. Science.
Right. And because, Reddit can be anybody telling any story, whether it's true or they made it up or they were on drugs when it all happened.
Exactly.
Whereas, if it's a story where the government got involved and there was like a non-disclosure agreement, then it's a little bit more credible.
And I feel like the hot spot time of alien reports was between the 40s and the 50s. Maybe the 40s and the 60s. I believe Betty and Bernard, or whatever I said his name was.
Barney.
Barney, thank you.
Because it was
You're listening.
Very much like the Flintstones.
Oh, you're right. Duh.
But yes, also I listen to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even when I'm playing cell phone games.
Yabba Dabba didn't listen at all.
What did you talk about again? My topic is aliens.
Wow. I didn't dedicate it to you, though.
Let me tell you about Betty and Barney. God, that would be crazy.
So yeah, aliens. I thought it was interesting, and I did start it off a little bit with the story of Hynek and everything, just because I wanted some of that fact in there.
I love that.
Just that showing that they took some of this seriously. This man got paid.
I 100% believe in aliens. Not so much in the, like, Simpsons style where they're going to, like, come down and do experiments on us, but just more in the idea that the universe is a very, very, very large place.
Yeah.
And there is just no way to justify with the knowledge that we have that we could be the only ones out there.
I never really think about it, to be honest.
Well, why not? Now you will.
Because I am the only one that exists in this universe.
I mean, there is some of that.
I do agree that if they're out there, though, they're those ones that the joke is they, like, drive past Earth like it's one of the dangerous cities on Earth, and they lock their doors.
Absolutely.
That's them.
There's obviously a lot of theories in, like, science fiction and all of that these days, but my favorite one is The Orville, which is a TV show that I think was created by Seth MacFarlane, and he stars in it, and it's very good. It's funny, and it's got some good emotional stuff in it, too. It's not as good as Ted Lasso, but, And they are on a spaceship, they're crewing a spaceship, kind of Star Trek style. And they go visit these other planets and universes, and they stumble upon one where there's humans, but they've been stuck on this spacecraft turned planet for so long that they've forgotten that they're actually in a spacecraft. They don't realize, they think they're on, like, a planet, and it's this non-technological, they don't know anything, they just believe in this, like, arbitrary space god. And then the Orville shows up, and they're like, oh, we noticed that your your spacecraft was in distress. And they're like, you noticed what now?
I feel like I vaguely remember this being a thing.
So
a show, not like a real life incident.
I mean, probably I haven't watched enough Star Trek to know, but probably that happens on Star Trek too, where they just, like, stumble upon these places that don't know that there's space travel in other universes, which is what I assume will happen to Earth someday.
I just want a Pedro Pascal Mandalorian to show up and not take me away, but
hang out for a while.
Hang out.
Do you need a place to stay when you're on Earth? Because I have a spare room.
That's a really comfy
that
bed.
My husband can sleep in.
He loves the couch. Exactly. Sorry, Ryan. Maybe I'll cut this before you get to see it. Hear it? See it?
Hopefully
Whatever.
not see it. Did you start video recording these and you didn't tell me? Oh,
Next minute, like a few minutes, I'm gonna pick up a can of Sprite and be like, Sprite, crisp, delicious. Set it down, and one driplet of water will go down it. You'll hear the whir of a camera zooming in. I
would mostly just be mad that you were obviously getting sponsorships that you hadn't told me.
From Coca-Cola.
Right, that would be a big deal.
Look, I'm not even mad that you're recording without my consent, but where's the money?
Right, like, was it both of us? Did they only sponsor you?
Surprise, I bought a new car.
And we're moving to this house on the lake. All right.
Anyway.
I don't have a transition for that because it was ridiculous. But I am diving back into the Bre Gets Her Shit Together series.
Woohoo.
So this is part 3. This part of me getting my shit together, I am also revisiting a previous episode. Episode 16, which was called Better Than Laundry, when I talked about making your house work for you. And Jessica talked about Dogman, which was a very important episode in the history of
a defining
our
moment
podcast. So if you have not recently listened to episode 16, you should go check it out.
Feels like a fitting time to revisit that. Dogman, aliens, cryptids. I mean, we did so good.
We really should get back to some of that. In fact, I have a clothing order coming from Shein right now, and there's a cryptid t-shirt in there because it was super cute and $4. So, going back to making your house work for you, the first time I talked about this, I talked a lot about like home organization or kind of getting away from feeling like your house had to look like a magazine or that you had to do everything the way it was expected.
How dare you come at me like this?
And this time I want to talk more about using space in your house to your strengths and also a little bit more about organization. So this starts because obviously as my clerk job comes to an end and I start to look forward to working from home, I also need to have a place in my house to work from, because when I converted my my spare room to a laundry room where our whole house holds all of our laundry in one place, which I still maintain is the best idea I ever had. I don't have an office anymore.
Oh, can I just I know this isn't exactly what you're going for, but interrupt and say, I think when you work from home, it makes a really big difference to be able to leave the space that you work in and detach. Even if all you can do is walk away from that space for a minute, like if you have to have it in your bedroom, you can walk away from that space and then come back in your bedroom later, but it's really important to detach, because I worked in my living room for a long time, and our living room is basically the middle of our home and the heart of our home, and it's a pretty open house, and so our kitchen and our living room are kind of one in the same space, and so you didn't get to detach when you walked away.
Oh, okay.
And it's a really important thing. It's just to throw that out there, but
that's good to know, because my new home office is in my living room, so.
I thought it was going to be under your stairs.
I mean, there's also that.
Okay.
I'm going to get to that. So
Bre thinks she's Harry Potter. Just go with that.
I am Harry Potter, okay? So, in previous episodes, I've also, like when I was talking about getting everything organized, I talked about having a command center or a drop zone and different types of command centers and those types of things. I want to touch more on furniture again. So I don't know if you've noticed, but Amazon has gotten pretty clever with all the different types of furniture they offer. Decide for yourself if you are okay with paying relatively cheap prices for cheap furniture that can show up at your house in 24 to 48 hours.
IKEA too. I was really, first time I've ever been in IKEA was this summer, and I was pretty impressed by some of the stuff they have. Size-wise, they've got some really, really like slim dressers and things that can fit a space that you wouldn't have thought of. Maybe more expensive than maybe 20-year-old Jessica would have liked, but totally fine for 30, almost 40-year-old Jessica.
Agreed, yes. IKEA, there's also, like, there's home organization stores now. Even, Home Goods and those places are going to have some pretty cool furniture ideas. But also thrift stores.
Yes.
You can spend a lot of time on TikTok or Google or Pinterest or whatever these days figuring out how to refinish or reimagine old furniture into something useful. And if you're looking for, especially talking about having a home office, if you're looking to put together like a pocket office, which is what I'm going to talk a little bit more about in a minute, looking at old roll-top desks are a great idea for being able to fold everything away, or like giant armoires that can be reimagined so they have the closing doors. And then if you're handy, obviously, if you can make the things that you need, you should definitely look into that. But the point is now that, especially since people are looking more into like tiny homes and smaller spaces, and as real estate keeps getting crazier and people in New York are being
into a tiny home. I'm sorry to interrupt you. My husband is so big.
That's true. You guys would not fit in a tiny home. He'd end up a hunchback because he'd be
angry all the time. If you know my husband, he's not that kind of guy, but
it would be very sad for him.
Really angry. I'm so sorry for interrupting, but whenever I hear tiny home, I'm like, oh, no. Nope.
You can't.
Sorry. Anyway, go on. You're doing great.
With tiny homes and like small spaces in New York, or people that are like packing up in motorhomes and traveling the country that way, there are some really clever furniture ideas out there that are useful for especially like multi-use spaces, or furniture that can be multi-use so that it can work in a variety of ways. I also want to encourage, as you're setting up your house and your organization, to find one spot to have a technology station. And that we are really overwhelmed and inundated with charging devices at this point. It feels like everything we buy has a charging port on it. Nothing needs batteries anymore. Everything has to be plugged in. Everything needs its own spot. So finding a place, especially centrally located in your house, where everything can be plugged in, whether it's the mouse or your earbuds or your cell phone or your kids' different devices, having it all in one spot makes it all really easy to organize. And if you decide to be one of those families that wants some tech-free time, it's really easy to put everything in one space and then know where it is and keep track of it if you want everybody off their phones or off their tablets at a certain time of day.
One really cool thing is that you can cut a small hole into the back of a drawer or a cupboard, or a cabinet or shelf or whatever, and pop something through there and even lock them into things.
Yes.
So that if your kids are sneaking around or anything.
And if you're on the Amazon, they make furniture like that now. Moving on to the first thing I'm going to talk about is pocket offices. And the first thing I found for moving my office into my living room was a little pocket desk that is it looks like just like a buffet table almost, but the top part swings out into an L shape to make it into a desk, so you have more room and more tabletop space. But that also came with its own little outlet that you plug into the wall, and then you have a spot to plug in your computer, and it's got USB ports for chargers, and everything's right there. So your desk essentially also powers all of the things you need to sit at that desk.
Nightstands do that now too.
Yes, you can buy nightstands that have them right in the drawers like you mentioned, or built into a lamp that comes out of the nightstand, or even like fancy lighting around the bottom. They're just crazy these days.
I was gonna interrupt again, and I looked at the time and I was like, shut up, Jessica.
And that's how our episodes are 2 hours long again, Jessica. Other notes on pocket offices. So this is going to be some place in your house that may not typically look like it could be an office space, but you can fit a lot of desk type options and hideaway stuff into these. Like in my house, it's just a little nook in my living room that has this cool desk that can pull out now. I have also what I'm doing, because I've noticed for myself, I work best if I'm not locked in a room. So
okay.
I was not looking to, rebuild my office so that I had a space I could lock myself away in, especially since I'm home alone most of the time during the day, except for the dogs. Or when I'm working at night, I kind of like to be in the family room and hanging out with my family if I have to be on my computer looking up houses or whatever. But I also know that there will be days that I need to focus and I need to get away from everything. So I've talked before about having this space under my stairs, my Harry Potter room, and I've made this into kind of a pocket office / hideaway room. And I get, like, some people might be calling them she sheds nowadays, or it used to be, you know, the men had a man cave where they could go out to their garage. So women are kind of taking this over as like she sheds. So in my basement, in this Harry Potter room, I created a very welcoming space. I put up tapestries so it's very calming, but the door can be closed. I can sit in there and really focus and get my work done. And then we have also then changed our basement into, instead of your typical, the house we bought was built with a bar in the basement, like a typical manly man cave basement. And whereas my husband and I do drink alcohol, sometimes we're not big like sit at a bar in the basement and watch football games type of people. So we've changed our basement into more of a project craft room area, and we're actually using our bar. It works really well to set up Zach's 3D printing equipment, and then having a large table in the middle of the room for all the different crafts and projects, and then Connor's like playroom area with all of the Legos. I also then have that space as workspace if I need to get out of my cramped little pocket office and have an actual table or a place to sit. It might sound extreme to have essentially 3 office spaces in my house, but working to my strengths and knowing how my brain works, this gives me the option to have a variety of different areas that I can go to that will work for what my brain needs at that time and what types of stimulation I need at the time. Whether I need it to be absolutely quiet and calm, or whether I need to be like out and about and around people. The last thing I kind of want to talk about on that note is really paying attention to your trends and how you use space in your house. So if you start to notice that even though your office is up here and upstairs, if you're always dragging your computer downstairs to do your work, then maybe you need a pocket office in the downstairs where you can have things set up. Or if you always...
The crawl space.
There you go. It'll be fine. Or if you try to create a really cute little entryway command center at your front door, but you notice that your family is still putting everything in the kitchen on the first flat surface they can find, maybe you need to move your command center into the kitchen and use the space there, because it doesn't matter how great or beautiful of a space you create or how useful it is if you're never going to use it, or if your habits never bring you to that area. So instead of creating spaces that look like magazines or using the spaces that we have in the way that they were built or intended or we're told that we have to, start paying attention to how you actually use your space and how you actually would benefit by having certain types of furniture or certain uses for areas, even if they might seem a little different than what you're used to.
I love the idea of giving permission. Not that anyone needs it, but just sometimes you do. Sometimes you need to be told. It's cool to do that. To just use your space in whatever way works for you. Mm-hmm. Because you do get stuck in what is someone going to think mode. But how many times are they at your house? Maybe once a year, twice a year for holidays?
And going back to the types of furniture that are available, it is so easy to be able to hide away these things that, you know, if you want to have the picture perfect house at the holidays when people come over for Thanksgiving, don't give up your dining room because you're going to use it one time a year when you could be, you know, with a Murphy desk or whatever, you could create a whole library office in your dining room and then use it once a year for dinner.
They make tables now that you can take the top off and there's an entire D&D gaming setup inside, and then you can put the top back on and your game doesn't get disturbed, and no one knows that it's a I want that so bad.
So do I. We don't even D&D that much, but just having it available, I'd be like...
the screen in it. You can put screens in them, and
they're crazy.
It kind of hurts me to talk about it because I don't have it. I'm sorry.
But that's such a good example of, you know, if you had an unused dining room that you were using that you wanted to make into a game room, there are options out there to be able to have a normal looking dining room that on Friday night you open a couple cupboards and you uncover the table and you have the best gaming setup of anyone you know.
And lights, like dimmable lights. Now I have mood lighting.
Yes.
Then when Nana and Papa come over, sorry, that's my parents too, not your grandparents only.
Why are my grandparents visiting you and not
And
me?
also, my parents don't care about D&D. But when Nana and Papa come over, if Nana gets, enraged about the demon game because she was in the 80s, she doesn't see it. She has no idea because you can turn the lights up and put the top on. I want that table so bad.
It would make Jessica's life so easy.
Everyone I know knows that I play D&D. My pastor knows that I play D&D. And no one cares. But I want that table so bad.
It would be amazing.
Anyway.
Again, if you have, I use the dining room for an example, but even if you had like a spare room that you do need to keep as a guest room because you have family from out of town that's around a lot, you can use this different furniture to make it kind of a multi-use room, whether that's a Murphy bed so that the bed can be put away, the 75% of the time that you're not using it, or Murphy desks or different shelves and dresser situations to make it, it can look like a guest room this part of the time, but it can be used for your different crafts and different hobbies, and different things can still be stored away into this furniture. They even make dressers now that are full of drawers, but they have like a pull-out roll top table, so you can extend the top of the dresser into a long table. So if you put all your crafts in a dresser like that instead of clothes, then you have a long table whenever you need it, and all of your craft stuff is right there in the dresser drawers. Use your rooms in your houses as you need them instead of how you have been told you should use them.
Get creative.
I've
seen incredible space-saving things. I love this kind of thing. This is 1000% my jam. I think about this kind of stuff all the time. I have so many ideas for every room in my house and what it's eventually going to look like, and that table.
In that table.
I need
the beautiful table.
I need a pellet stove. So if anybody has a free pellet stove, please let me know.
If we ever rip ours out of our house, you can have it.
Yes, please. Yes. You all heard that. Write it down. It's a pellet stove on my back porch.
Oh, yes.
Then I could put a gaming table in there because we have the outdoor space. We don't go outside. We don't use the porch for summer stuff because we're going outside. Yeah, anyway.
And if you put enough bodies in there in the winter, it'll be plenty warm.
Oh, yeah, and a pellet stove, and keep it warm, and then I could decorate it for Christmas, and if it's snowing, I could go sit out there with hot cocoa. Right?
I love that idea.
Right?
Because every woman needs a hideaway spot, okay?
Seriously. And it can't do it on this roof when it's snowing.
Right.
I'll die.
And your hideaway space should not only be your office.
That's true.
I do want to touch on. I think a lot of times women get shoved to the okay, you have a craft room, so
or
that's your hideaway space.
You have the whole house because women typically run and
organize and decorate.
Yes, and men are like, I got my man cave, and you have the whole house.
But if you need a space where you're not constantly forced to do something.
And
if you have a craft room or even in here, it's a workplace.
Right.
If you're in here, you're probably working because it's your job, or you're working on podcast stuff, or if it's your craft room, you're probably in there working on something that you're making for somebody, or that you need to get ready for Christmas so that you can give it away. Whereas my basement hideaway spot could be my office. A lot of the time it's just a spot to chill.
Yeah, I agree. I love this kind of thing, and I just want to share all my ideas, but I won't because this is already an hour. So I love it. I say that every time. Sometimes I'm gonna be like, that was awful.
Worst topic
then
ever.
I'm just gonna turn it off.
That'll be and then we'll for the first time ever skip a week.
Yes. We'll have an episode that's just the music, and then Ryan being like, Dungeons and Dopamine is taking a break.
This is a message from our sponsors.
Sprite. I can't think of their slogan. Do they have a slogan?
Refreshing or something like that.
Zesty. That's soap.
Zesty could be a weird word for soda.
Crisp is one that I've heard a lot.
You just reminded me that I think I spent a significant time in middle school trying to make zesty a word.
I think yes. I'm almost positive it's on our notebook. All right.
Good
well, anyway,
for me. Good job,
this
me.
has been Zesty Dungeons and Dopamine Podcast.
Sure has been.
You'd love it.
You can listen to us anywhere you stream podcasts and on YouTube.
You can support us on Patreon at www.patreon.com/dungeonsdopamine.
You can find us on Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, and Reddit.
I'm yawning.
Jessica thinks we're boring, but you shouldn't.
You can reach out to us and our sponsor Sprite at our social medias, on any of those social medias, or dungeonsdopamine@yahoo.com.
Dungeons and Dopamine is edited and published by the zesty Argyle Pigeon Productions.
I couldn't make the drinking noise. Carly's really good at it. I can't do
We
it.
have to get her in for a voiceover.
Let's have her pop in. We'll clip it in. Okay, that's all.
That's it.
We love you. Bye.
Okay, bye.